What's cracking, people? It's your man Cousin T, aka the Alpha Wingman, representing high-level technicians operating globally and beyond. So listen, today I wanted to put the bow on the Octane observation series with this installment of Octane Endgame. And gentlemen, let me tell you, this was not an easy endeavor to undertake. Alright? All the links to data sources that were available will be provided below. The graph that you see right now and the one that's going to be used in the latter part of this podcast is not by any means extensive or exhaustive, and it's important to note that those metrics will change after the 2020 census. So the majority of the deeper and more telling data is behind paywalls and really is in the hands of, those smartphone companies and the data collection agencies and the three-letter government entities that view, the protection of the raw info as a matter of national security. Now, I just wanted to get that out there for anybody who, would like to do the research, click those links, follow the rabbit hole, and see how deep it goes. It's very nuanced. It's very complex. There are a lot of different factors to take into consideration. So I tried to simplify it as much as possible. But what was interesting is the trend that followed the Octane spectrum, which is really telling. It's really interesting, and it's exciting to present. Okay, so that being said, I also want to give a shout out to two content creators who I think provide comprehensive and rich insights into what really goes into the mentality and the deeper dialogues between masculine masters and those who really want to view the conversation in a comprehensive and holistic manner. And first, shout out goes to Ron Wills with that video that he produced a while ago, and I'm going to leave the link for that in the description. The name of that video is "It's More Than Entertainment," and what this video represents is that the worst representations of this community, specifically the Black American community, are sent globally. And when foreign observers view this content and view what's exported from America as representations of Black culture, the observers treat us accordingly to what that media message puts out there. Okay, interesting topic. Also, I want to send a shout out to the Crimson Cure, aka Kendra D, who I'm gonna officially rename or give the nickname the Black Pill Belladonna. All right, gentlemen, she puts out a lot of red pill content, but that's her being modest, and that's her throttling a lot of levels that she can take the deeper aspects of the information and the conversation to. Two of her podcasts that I'm going to reference here will be the following: What is Consciousness? I'm going to link that down below. And the Miseducation of the Hood. When I saw these or listened to these podcasts a while ago, it let me know that Crimson Cure or Kendra D has the ability to take things to the black pill level, because she made the statement that we, both men and women, view quote-unquote success through the criterion or the lens of a power structure that intentionally established a system for targeted groups to fail. Okay, leave that out there. But this ties into ultimately why I don't really go in on or even highlight the 85 octanes on my channel, because at only 12% of the Black female American population, their imagery is projected globally, and megaphones are put in front of 85 octane women who represent a level that most men and in particular, select men avoid. Characters like K. Michelle and Megan Thee Stallion are given shine and given press and given a platform to talk about relations as if they made up the majority of the culture, and that's clearly not the case. So I just wanted to get those things out of the way first before I got into the meat of this subject. So now, gentlemen, the Octane endgame is simple. See, when we as men or masculine masters have a real discussion about women, we don't simply rely on what they say. I know that's a loaded statement, but follow me. We observe what they do and how the sum of their actions play out in real time with real data. Whether it's a 92 octane like Michelle Obama and her White House garden that she maintained over the course of the presidency, or whether it's the 87 octane Sierra and when she stayed at 50 Cent's home and failed to even keep groceries in the refrigerators or maintain the cleanliness of the place that she was allowed to stay in for free for months on end. The actions speak to the end game pursuit. And gentlemen, at the end of the day, that's why this work must be done. Now, having said that, let's get into it. I'm going to post this graphic again, and basically the takeaway and the tangibles can be listed as the nesting / nurture ecosystem template, and that's the end game result of the octanes throughout the spectrum. You take all of this data, you take all of this information, you take the trends, you take these behaviors, you take these attitudes. That's extremely complex. It's extremely layered. But as always, gentlemen, your cousin T-Taw has your back. I have distilled it down to digestible bites. Like I said, it's nicknamed Nest for nesting / nurture ecosystem template. So let's get into the description or breakdown for each of the octane grades, starting with the diesel, which represents 1% of the female population that we targeted and are observing for this particular podcast. The end goal, or the end game goal, is to earn and burn. They are the unknown. They are the ones who have so many variables that went into their lifestyle and why they do what they did. Their focus is, at the end of the day, to earn and burn. And Godspeed to the man who takes on that challenge of attempting to settle a woman of that caliber. Moving on to the 100 octane, representing 3% of the population. And gentlemen, it's interesting to note that this is a floating number. It's a fluid number because it's a number that changes depending on how this particular octane grade ages out of that particular spectrum. They usually go into trophy wife territory, or settles into a situation where they can find a man who's capable of providing them with the lifestyle that they've become accustomed to of travel, materials. Primarily, these are rich or wealthy or well-to-do men. A lot of them want kids, definitely, but you definitely have to provide a home. And that home needs to reflect the sum of the 100 octanes lifestyle. So that home needs to be large enough and be extravagant, to use that word, enough to reflect what she visually provides to that high post or high earning provider that she ultimately settles with. Moving on to the 92 octane, who up or down represents 26% of the target population. And the sum of their game leading to their end game includes school, career, house, then man, then the man who can present her the social ladder that she desires, family, then estate, meaning a 92 octane wants to leave her mark on a position, and that's a very unique characteristic when we talk about women across the octane spectrum. Most women defer to the man to leave his mark on a situation, but the unique position of a 92 octane in this modern space leaves her wanting to leave that mark. And that's an interesting dynamic and an interdynamic that a man needs to be conscious of if he is looking to approach and to get with a 92 octane. The 89 octane, which represents 23% of the target population, looks for school, the job, the house, family, which includes the man, and then community. Like I said before in the previous video, the 89 octane is that family-oriented, community-focused. She's the one, in my opinion, who has those 8/8 of wifey material. That's just my own opinion, but that comes from observations. And when we look at the data and we look at the statistics, that number of 23% could be higher in terms of her impact in the labor market. But an interesting part of that number includes the fact that a lot of 89 octanes are not in the labor market. That's because they've been wifed up and they are housewives. You see, once you start digging through the data and you start looking into those statistics, these particular octane spectrum representatives really start to pop out at you. Okay, so that is what the end game is for the 89 octane. The 87 octane, which represents 35%. This is the bulk of the low skill labor class within the woman's side of the labor statistics for our target population. Her focus and her end game would be job, kids, home, then man. So there's a lot of things that are not per se in order, and that is because those factors that I mentioned in the previous octane observation videos of aptitude, attitude, ambition, and access aren't necessarily fully developed or fully explored within the 87 octanes world. And so the resulting expressions of how she puts together or manages her ecosystem expresses itself accordingly. She can be given to whims and given to societal trends that may not necessarily provide her with the best information or the best way of navigating this modern space that we find ourselves in. So that's the 87 octane. And finally, that which I try to avoid reporting on, and I'm going to tiptoe around this and try to be as diplomatic as possible, the 85 octane. Now, even when gathering statistics for this particular octane grade, I had to really dig a little bit deeper. And like I said, I provided all the links that correspond to the graphs that I provided below. But with the 85 octane, and even identifying how the 85 presents herself within the greater population, there is a set of statistics and a cross section of statistics that are very telling, and that cross section of statistics include those who are on public aid / housing assistance for more than 48 months, and those who register as head of household. So those three specific indicators, when we go into the data, we go into the real information that plays out over and over, that number comes up as 12%, and that's how that particular designation for the 85 octane and her percentage in the greater population of our targeted spectrum presents itself. Like I said, gentlemen, this is very deep, it's very nuanced, there's a lot of factors that go into it, and there are a lot of numbers that play into it. But at the end of the day, when it's all said and done, the Octane endgame for the 85 Octane is children, which can be used as leverage, government assistance, which also can be used as leverage, and then males. And I say males as opposed to men because the type of males that run and the spaces of the 85 Octane are not the ones who we would qualify as masculine masters because of the dynamic that exists in those spaces. And for that reason, most select men, and I say 99.999% of select men, actively avoid that particular Octane. Gentlemen, when we discuss topics such as this, especially in this space of the select manosphere, it is for the purpose of understanding and having teachable tools that we can exchange and have this discussion between each other and the younger men so that they are armed with information that they can use and that they are not necessarily privy to and they're not receiving from mainstream sources. So gentlemen, at the end of the day, which Octane grade best suits your vision for how you want your world to look, how you want your path to play itself out, and which Octane grade has played a more significant role in your environment and how the sum of your life's journey has played out up to this point that, men like myself, Master Teacher BGS Idmore, Ron Wills, Kevin Samuels, who are doing this work of breaking down these models and these grades, when you compare the sum of your life experiences, how many of these Octane grades have passed through your experience? How many of these Octane grades have shaped or turned or caused a positive or negative in your life's journey? That's the interesting start of the conversation, and that's the purpose for the Octane Endgame. As always, this is your man Cousin T, aka the Alpha Wingman, saying, stay sharp and mission focused. Later.